Hello, welcome to Move Younger. I'm Kathy Hale. Move Younger is about the three elements of aging well: how we move, what we eat, and how we deal with stress. Today, we are discussing the numerous benefits of local farmers markets with Alana Young-Henry. She is the executive director of Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council in Kansas City, Missouri. And in this discussion, we are going to actually be covering all three of those elements. I realized when I was thinking it through, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about walking through the community, walking to the market, and also dealing with stress. So um,
Absolutely.
I just knocked on my notes. Okay, so first I thought I might read something because I want to have you talk. You have so much information. I just enjoyed meeting you the other day. So this is from the John Hopkins Medicine, and it says produce from local farmers have spent more time on the vine, on the tree, or in the ground, so you get better taste and more nutrients. And when it comes to fresh fruit and vegetables, the shorter the time and distance from farm to sale, the higher the levels of vitamins and minerals, which
Mhm.
I know we both know, but I'd love to have you talk more just about that in general, or whatever
Well,
you do.
yeah, absolutely. I think that even without sort of advanced pedigree or knowledge in nutrition sciences, I think conceptually the average person can understand that the sooner you get a fresh fruit or vegetable into your body, the more nutritious it is. And what I think we can acknowledge in
Oh, you cut out. Something happened.
uh-oh.
Your sound cut out. Go ahead and go back a little bit. We'll be fine.
Sure, sure. So I think even without pedigree or advanced knowledge in nutritional sciences, most folks understand that when you harvest fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, the sooner you get that into your body, the better it is for your body and for your health overall. And what I think is difficult in our current model in terms of food production and consumption is that we are bringing in foods from different parts of the country and even sometimes different parts of the world.
Yes.
And so that food has to be preserved. We have to essentially stunt the natural maturation process of a food in order to get it to the grocery store for us to purchase and then eat before it goes bad. And there's been a rise in sort of videos on TikTok or Twitter, X, whatever you call that tool, of folks sort of exposing really what people in the food space have known for many years, which is a lot of the foods we're ingesting have been um, adjusted for longer shelf life than is natural.
Yes. Actually, that was the beginning of GMOs. In like the 90s, the first GMO, which is genetically modified, was a tomato for a longer shelf life, but no one liked the flavor. So then it went into corn and soy. But we
Mm-hmm.
won't talk about GMOs right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I think also you were talking about how it's people aren't aware of seasons, which I have noticed too. So maybe I don't know if you want to address that.
Again, our the consumeristic nature of our society and the instant gotta have it nature of how we consume has led to sort of a bloating of the food production system in a way that's unhealthy, right? So folks are going to the grocery store and they're expecting to get tomatoes at any point in the year.
Mhm.
Folks are going and expecting to find pineapple at any point in the year. You want to find berries at any point in the year, and if you are finding, tomatoes in December, then you just have to know that those tomatoes were not locally grown
Yes,
because
I don't know they're
yeah,
from.
because the tomatoes are seasonal crops. And so one of the things we try to do here at the Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council, and one of the things local farmers try to do, is educate the consumer on the seasonality of produce. And I think we've seen, even in the restaurant industry, that some chefs have been really intentional about seasonal
Mhm.
menus that feature fresh produce that's local to that area, that's actually being grown and harvested at that time. And I think that goes a
Mhm.
long way for consumer education. But, unfortunately, we're not always going to hit the mark there and making sure people understand.
But I mean, what I wish people would start paying attention to is just the quality and flavor is so elevated when you
Oh
buy from
yeah,
a local farmer, and it's just
it's
unequal,
different.
unequal. Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to say I didn't like tomatoes. I mean, I used to be one of those folks that said I didn't like tomatoes, but I would eat tomatoes in, pasta,
Mhm.
sauces, or in salsas and etc. And what I discovered in this journey of urban farming is that I actually love tomatoes. I just had never had a really great
Yes,
homegrown tomato.
yes,
The tomatoes that we were purchasing from the grocery store tasted like flavorless mush.
yes, yes.
And so
The
I think there's
texture
a
of it.
whole host of people out there right now who would love a number of fruits and vegetables that they've been turned off by if they
Mhm.
just tried locally homegrown.
And I know because I want to get on. There's so many benefits people don't know about that I'm
Yeah.
so anxious to talk about. But one of the other things with farmers markets that I notice when I am, and I want to clarify for listeners, this is about local farmers. This is not what you have to realize is a farmers market is not always local farmers.
Hmm.
I think they're called warehouse. I can't remember the label because I haven't been to one of those markets for a while. But if you learn your seasons and are shopping locally, you can just talk to the farmers too. I just say talk to the farmers because a lot of it in certain markets here, farmers markets here, come from warehouses. I won't
Hmm.
mention where. I
Yeah.
won't say that, but not yours and not the others that are focused on local farmers. But one of the things is the variety. There's just endless squash, tomatoes. Um, I mean, I remember years ago when I was working with one of the first organic farmers here, and he had these little peach tomatoes, which I don't know if I've seen so much since then, but they have this like almost like a not fuzz, but and they were really mild and
Hmm.
tasted so different, and it's just to me, it's like an exciting way to play, you know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, I think that therein lies another difference between sort of mass production farming
Mhm.
and local farming and urban farming. Most folks who are in the urban farming space are doing so because they enjoy growing food and doing so for for the community, for the
Mhm.
consumer. And so they take risks on what they grow, and they have a desire for adventure and trying different varieties.
Mhm.
Whereas when we're talking about mass production, it's about quantity over
Right.
quality. It's about maximizing profit. So you don't want to venture too far out of what people deem normal and
Mhm.
typical. And so you don't get sort of the exciting parts of food production or consumption when we're
Yeah.
talking just standard grocery store.
So many varieties of potatoes, tomato, literally
Tons.
everything, everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So the
Yeah,
other
that's a great
huge
point.
benefit. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was
uh,
just going to say that's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because food is supposed to be fun. And,
mhm.
the beauty of growing and cooking is to enjoy that experience beyond just sort of the immediate fulfillment of being full. And I think
Yes.
so much of that we've lost.
Yes. I will say one more thing. I used a lot of local farmers when I had my meal prep business. And even years ago when I had my vegetarian cafe, I used the one local organic farmer that I found.
Hmm.
It was 92, so it was early days. One of the things I found was even in my meal prep business, even though I used purple sweet potatoes, white sweet potatoes, regular, orange sweet potato, regular, um, they were surprised. They couldn't figure out what it was. They were like, you had something that was looked like a potato, but it didn't taste like a potato, and even when I go to the markets, they're like, well, what is this purple thing? Or what is this, and it's just like,
Hmm.
it's endless. I mean, just to have fun. And
Hmm.
it's a playground to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so next quote. Um, I I knew this, but I didn't know this because it's like shop local, shop small.
Right.
The economic benefits of farmers markets. So this is from the Sustainable Agricultural Network. When consumers purchase food from local farmers, they are directly contributing to the economic stability and growth of their community. Money spent at local farms and farmers markets tend to stay within the community, supporting local businesses and generating more local jobs. The economic boost can lead to improved infrastructure, better schools, and more vibrant local economies, benefiting everyone in the community.
Wow.
And I, so
Oh,
I
well,
know I'd love for you to even talk about Ivanhoe because that is really interesting what's happening there.
yeah. I mean, I think that quote hits the nail on the head. The beauty of the farmers market atmosphere or even a thriving local food system is it's not just beneficial for the consumer from a health standpoint of eating the food, you're actually
Mhm.
benefiting the farmer and your local economy by supporting them. And here at Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council, we have led the charge on a number of initiatives over many years to sort of acknowledge the flip side of those coins, both pieces, right? Aiding folks who need to get into the local food system and providing them supports for navigating, sort of transitioning from backyard gardening or hobby gardening into a farm business, which is
Mhm.
different, and also making sure that we're supporting the community with outreach and education about the benefits of local food. A recent initiative that we came up with, that I'm really proud about, that stemmed from an idea of mine on that same vein, is the Farmers Market Passport program. And
Uh-huh.
with that program, we are highlighting farm businesses throughout the greater Kansas City area, encouraging folks to patronize those businesses. And then, of course, the flip side of that is we've incentivized consumers to purchase and eat those foods. And I think a thriving local food system is able to do just that, acknowledge the health benefits, the wellness benefits, the community connection benefit of the
Mhm.
from an atmosphere and culture standpoint, but also the financial benefit for the farm businesses.
Do you have a link people could go to read more about that on the website or?
Yeah, absolutely. So our partner in that initiative, they actually have a web page that's dedicated to the Farmers Market Passport. Our partner is Cultivate
I thought
KC,
it
which is another nonprofit organization.
was,
Um, and I don't know the exact handle, but you could just Google, Farmers Market Passport, and I'm sure the website will come up. But I'll definitely get you the link, Kathy, and then you could
okay.
share that with your listeners.
We will add that in our notes because
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we hear shop small as a way
Hmm.
to, and I don't remember the facts on it, but every dollar you spend locally on a local business, the return is huge. Whereas I will mention Amazon because I, I just wish people would just focus on local. And I'm hoping that one of the positive things that's coming out of everything happening right now would be that people would start to support their local businesses more, farmers markets, small shops, and all that. And
Well, I
and
think it
also,
gets to. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, I was just going to say, in your farmers market and other farmers markets have small businesses there selling things too that they've made, which is a great platform for them to develop and grow their business.
Absolutely. I think that statistic, I think I've seen that floating around. I think it gets to um, the crux of how our society sort of economically is set up. When we think about patronizing small businesses, we sort of know that it's probably run by a family or a small group of
Mhm.
individuals who are probably not, although they could be in the upper echelon of society. And so it's likely that those dollars are going towards a family who is trying to pay the bills, right?
Right,
They
right.
are paying their bills, they're enrolling their kids in sports, average American life types of things. Larger companies, big conglomerates, those dollars are going into the hands often of CEOs who are investing in, stock portfolios and the like. It's just a very different sort of
Yes.
focus for the dollars than a family owned establishment, family owned business.
And I'll just balance it out and saying there are large businesses or corporations who do well, like Patagonia, that do put money back into the people who build the business, and their customers. And being big is not necessarily bad, but support local is always better, always, in my opinion.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
money,
Being
the
a
money
large
goes back.
company is not inherently a
Right.
problem, but it is more difficult, I think, when you are a larger company to maintain that proximity to people and to community because
Hmm.
you're a little further removed. And so I think they have to be more intentional. You alluded to like corporate social responsibility. There are companies that adopt that philosophy and use that as their guiding force when they're making financial decisions, but it just is it's a little more difficult, I think, for a larger enterprise to do that well.
For sure. For sure.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, I have so many things. Let's see. Okay, stronger communities.
Yeah.
This was also something I should have known, but it was just when we talked the other day, I thought that is such a valid point that people don't think about. I really think for the most part, people think farmers markets are where I can get some farm tomatoes. And they kind of limit it to that.
Hmm.
Okay, so farmers markets and local food co-ops provide opportunities for consumers to meet the people who grow their food, foster a sense of community and trust. These interactions can also educate consumers about seasonal produce, which we talked about, and sustainable agricultural practices, which I actually would like to talk about. Stronger community connecting can lead to greater support for local farmers and increased interest in local food initiatives, which you talked about, further enhancing the sustainability of the local food system. This is also from the Sustainable Agricultural Network.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, are there ways that we haven't covered as far as creating stronger communities? The money goes back to the community. You're creating more nutrition. So that is always going to be beneficial because that helps the health of the community. You're also most likely walking, depending on where the market is.
Yeah, so I would say one of the things that farmers market managers or even local municipalities and others have to be really intentional thinking about is what are some of the barriers to the consumers in my respective area? What are some
Hmm.
of the limitations to understanding the value of a local market and the limitations to actually patronizing one? What is preventing this individual or group of individuals from getting involved in this way? And I think sometimes folks who are really passionate about local food and really passionate about regenerative agriculture and health and wellness, sometimes we can get a little bit on our high horses about like, well, this is better for you. So like you should want to do that because it's better for your body and it's good for the earth. And that alone isn't enough to sway someone when they're thinking about how do I get there? My kids have softball practice. My
Right.
bills are expensive. And so, with community in mind, um, I think it's incumbent on the health and wellness community, but also any cooperative that is aiming to strengthen the local food system and the relationship between consumers and farmers to make sure you've really sat down to identify barriers to that involvement and strategize supports to actually facilitate it.
Such as CSAs, I would say.
Absolutely.
And CSAs for, well, you should probably explain it. I think you could do
Well,
a better job.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm sure you would have done a great job with defining it. But CSAs are community supported agriculture, and it can look like a lot of different models, but the typical model is a subscription to a produce box, right,
Hmm.
or basket.
Hmm.
So the consumer can reach out to a local farm that they're interested in supporting, request the subscription, and then they receive either weekly or monthly or biweekly an allocation of fresh fruit or vegetables that are seasonal from that farmer that's prepared for them as a subscriber. There are a lot of benefits to the CSA model. one, from the farmer standpoint, is you have guaranteed money that'll help
Mhm.
sustain you throughout the growing season. And then for the consumer, a lot of times folks who want to try new things, but don't necessarily know what to try, if they were to go to the grocery store, it's sort of convenient. You don't have to go to the store, it's delivered to your home, or
Right.
perhaps it's at a local pickup spot. And then you open the box and it's sort of like, what's that show, Chopped, right? You open the box and it's like, what do I do with all of these items? And it brings the adventure and the fun back into food consumption and food preparation. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate of it. I think it's a great way for folks to kind of dabble in local food.
And usually for busy families, I think the pickup day is often not on the weekend, as I recall, but I know it would vary. So that would
Hmm.
help with all the sports. And you are getting a better price usually
Yes.
because you're getting the way I remember it was the farmer is giving you the benefit of his a bounty. And so
Yes.
he has a certain amount, or she has a certain amount that they're allotting for their CSA.
Hmm.
And, and
Hmm.
a long time ago, this is why also it's so important to support farmers. The same farmer, the organic farmer I worked with, I took some kids on a tour of his farm. I think they were in sixth or seventh grade. And they first were just mystified and amazed by the whole thing. It was a big farm near Sedalia, Missouri. And he said, farming's like gambling. You just really don't know whether you're going to win or not because it's
Oh yeah.
in the Midwest, the weather is actually, it's been great this year, but it's often very unpredictable. And,
Hmm.
sometimes it's crazy hot when it's supposed to be a cool growing season. So,
Oh yeah, farming builds resilience. If there was ever
mhm,
was a practice in resilience, farming is it, because you know there are going to be failures. I mean, you're going to, in theory, do everything right
mhm,
with a certain crop, and all the pests come and eat it all up, or you have, you know, a flash of heat for a week, and then it all bolts, and now you can't use it, and it's bitter. I mean, it's just a part of it. But you
mhm.
also have immense successes, even things that are experimental that work out really great. And so it is sort of fun, the discovery of it. But you just know that, like your analogy of gambling, like you're gonna
His
win
analogy.
some, you're gonna
His
lose some.
analogy.
His analogy, yeah, you're gonna win some and lose some.
Yeah. And we should just touch on the sustainability of the farming that a lot of the farmers do, where
Hmm.
they aren't using pesticides or they're using natural pesticides, or you could address that. There
Yeah.
is that also provides a healthier product in that you're not consuming compared to commercial farming.
Right.
Um, Strong pesticides that are coating your food as it grows.
Right, right. Well, there's really been a movement towards something really that's been ancient practice, which is regenerative agriculture. And
Yes.
that's just a fancy way of saying whatever we're doing with the soil and with the earth is helping to heal the earth and fix the problems that we have inflicted on it,
Yes.
and is in respect of the earth. And so that includes a number of things: pest management. It includes that, making sure that you're not using synthetic chemicals, pesticides and herbicides,
Mhm.
etc. That includes no-till, which has become more common. Um, there's all sorts of sort of components to regenerative agriculture. Crop rotation would be another thing. Um,
To put nutrients back in the soil from a crop that would take it. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So I wouldn't say that like I'm knowledgeable on all of the different methods,
Mhm.
but what I will say is that this idea of regenerative agriculture, some of it is stemmed from the awareness of what we've done to the environment and to the earth, and an
Mhm.
attempt to remediate some of that. Um, some of it comes from this idea of respecting the practices of our ancestors or of indigenous
Mhm.
peoples who were successful in land stewardship. Some of it's done out of necessity in urban areas in particular, where sort of contaminants in soil tend to be more prevalent. There are a myriad of reasons why, but I'm a big proponent and advocate of it.
And we should include the link to the Young Family Farm because they are a great example of doing all those things. And
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
and talk about an urban farm. I mean, it is in a neighborhood that was needed some rebuilding.
Yeah, historically disinvested
Hmm.
neighborhood, and when we think about contaminants in soil and environmental injustice, we would be a case study, the Ivanhoe neighborhood, and not just Young Family Farm, but a number of urban farms and gardens really have sprouted over the past 15 years or so, and
Hmm.
community gardens in an attempt to a meet food access needs for the community, but b also make good use of vacant property, vacant land, often land that has been contaminated over time from illegal dumping. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really beautiful just seeing what's happened so far. All the
Yeah.
garden, the raised beds and things. It was that's just around the Ivanhoe farmers market. Sorry, the
Yeah,
farmers
yeah.
market. And,
The
yeah.
the third district has the highest saturation of urban gardens, farms, and community gardens in the six council districts of Kansas City, the
Oh,
highest
wow.
saturation. And so I think that in and of itself tells a story, not just about the need, but of the possibility.
That's really exciting. And
Hmm.
does Cultivate KC support most of this, or do they help develop this in some ways? Because I know they're great at growing growers, so you have a program for that.
Yeah, so Cultivate KC and also Kansas City Community Gardens are
Mhm.
two nonprofit partners of Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council who have played different roles in supporting the organization with farmer education or consumer education, etc. In terms of Ivanhoe's origin story and the beginnings of Ivanhoe's community garden efforts, that was not Cultivate KC, nor was it Kansas City Community Gardens.
Mhm.
It really started grassroots with the residents of the community and
I
leadership in the community that wanted to make that change and sort of focus on those efforts. And then the Master Gardeners of Greater Kansas City joined in.
Mhm.
And then University of Missouri Extension was a part of that as
Mhm.
well. And then later, Kansas City Community Gardens and Cultivate KC
Okay.
came on as partners.
Okay, that's really
Hmm.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
like a story unto itself. I love that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so the last part of my four parts
Okay.
is the reducing of food insecurities, and this is from the Institute for Functional Medicine. My light's changing, so now I can't read. The poverty rate in food deserts is 20% of, or greater, or the median family income is below or equal to 80% of the statewide median family income. An estimated 39 million or 12.8% of the US population lives in low income or and low access areas. This is in
Mhm.
2015. Local farmers markets can serve as interventions bringing healthy food options to food deserts, and they are viewed as just one way to begin addressing chronic health problems. Farmers markets can be purposefully developed in communities with high rates of poverty, communities of color, and or communities with limited access to healthy foods. And the food desert issue, I mean, the farmers markets really helps with that. And you can explain that just because I know a lot of people may not know what a food desert is.
Yeah, so a food desert, that term, which I think the USDA has kind of gotten away from using the term food desert, but really what it means is an area where there's limited access to a full service grocery store. So your typical grocery store that's going to include fresh produce and also include all of your non-perishable items, and then also
Mhm.
meats, etc. That's a full service grocery store. And so there was actually a measure in terms of what is your proximity within whatever area you live. What is your proximity to a full service grocery store? And if it's over a certain distance, I believe it's 1 mile or 1.5 miles, they sort of have a spectrum measure.
Mhm.
Then they would qualify that area as a food desert. And then there are some other terms that you may hear or have seen: food insecure, then there's food apartheid. All of those essentially mean people are having trouble getting to fresh produce. They can buy
Right.
liquor, they can buy chips, they can buy candy, but if they want to go buy a cucumber, they've got to go to the suburbs somewhere or they've got to drive further out. And knowing that transportation can be a barrier, often in areas where the median household income is low, then we're talking about folks really not actually having freedom of choice.
Mhm.
Um, and so food sovereignty is about freedom of choice. Are you able to choose what you want to eat?
Right.
Are you able to choose what you want your family to eat because you have access to resources?
Right.
Or is the system or the infrastructure preventing you from making that choice?
Right.
Hmm.
And that brings up the many things that are going on right now, in that so many programs are also being eliminated from. I don't even know where things stand anymore, but there was a SNAP, uh, which I might have the names wrong, but there was a program where if you had a lower income, you could get like a token from the farmers market.
Yeah, so
I'm
SNAP and
totally
EB,
forgetting the name. Is it SNAP? Okay, thank you.
yeah, SNAP and EBT. So the food stamps program, sometimes people call it that, is a program that is administered by the state, and there's funding that allows folks to um, utilize their EBT card to purchase fresh vegetables from a local farmer. And there's paperwork that has to be filled out on the farmer's end, but people can come and patronize that business. There were also incentive programs. One of them is called Double Up Food Bucks, which allows folks who
Oh, yeah.
are utilizing SNAP and EBT to double the benefit. So let's say they have $11 left on their card. They are eligible in certain places to double that. So then they'd get $22 worth of produce.
Hmm.
And the farmer would be paid that $22. A lot of the funding for programs like that is disappearing,
Right.
in addition to overall cuts to the SNAP and EBT program. And so that makes it harder for people who are already struggling to afford food, period, let
Right.
alone fresh produce, which would be fruit or vegetables. Another program that is used often in Missouri is what's called the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Voucher Program.
Oh, I didn't know
And
about
that
this.
is a program that's currently administered by the University of Missouri. And that allows for seniors, I think the age is 60 plus, low income seniors, to get essentially a voucher, $60 worth of produce to be used, to be purchased at some point in the season. So, you
Yeah,
know,
I think anyone who has not experienced a low income or a food insecurity has no idea how the smallest help is huge. And when they lose that,
significant.
it is catastrophic, in my opinion. When I was in college, I was broke, of course, but I was also
Yeah.
a single mom. And there was a program called WIC, which provided
Mhm.
dairy. And it just getting dairy, just getting milk, cheese, butter made a huge difference in how much I had to spend. So, that even if it's that much help, it's huge for them. And
Significant.
it's so, yes.
And I'll tell you that, one of my concerns as a nonprofit leader and in this nonprofit sector that we have right now is when we think about a senior who is already on Social Security, which there are concerns about Social Security cuts
Mhm.
and
Yes.
restrictions, and so they're on limited income, and some of these support programs are also being cut. Costs are going up in terms of cost of living.
Yes.
We're really putting a large number of people in a really tough spot to sustain living, to sustain life. Um,
Yes.
And we are likely pushing additional folks who were on the cusp there towards that significant difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
One of the aims of Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council's program or grant proposal, rather, to the USDA was actually to support young mothers on WIC and seniors utilizing the voucher program with a specific market tailored to them, meaning we would only have vendors at that market who were WIC eligible and senior farmers market voucher eligible. So they'd have that shopping experience of all eligible items and could come to the Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council to purchase those from local businesses, local farm businesses. Well, that funding was cut. And so we're not able to offer that support in the way that we had planned and the way that's needed.
And it was significant funding. I mean, it was,
Significant.
it really, it's actually how I think I came across, yes, I came across you because of that funding in the first place. And then from it being taken away,
Mm-hmm.
how we
Yeah.
first, how we first conversed. And so is there, and I don't know if you want to say the amount, but it was, it's, that what I do want to end with this because farmers markets are beneficial, but right now these small, what seem like small things being taken away are truly, like you said, I'm going to say catastrophic. I don't think I'm exaggerating because
No, you're not.
it's a ripple effect, just like you talked about. It isn't this one thing disappearing. It is a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
is you? Oh, go on, go on.
Well, I was just going to say that, sometimes it can be hard for folks to conceptualize
Mm-hmm.
if you're coming from a place of privilege. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily just mean like racial privilege. I mean privilege in general. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard for people who are making a decent salary, maybe they're making 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
to conceptualize what it might be like for someone who's making half of that and for dependents.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I was reading recently that the average income needed to afford a home in the state of Missouri is 83,000 a year. And so in the community that I serve with a median household income of 30,000 per year, um, you really are just trying to keep the lights on, the water
Right.
on. You're trying to get the kids to and from school.
Right.
Am I going to have enough to get dinner on the table each night and not have to be stretching the food?
Mhm.
Um, and that's not the case for everyone here in our community. That's not the case for everyone here in the country, but we're seeing higher numbers of those folks. We're going in the wrong direction. The trajectory is not a good one. And it's unfortunate because I think there are a lot of farmers who could step into that gap, but we're
Mhm.
being cut off at our knees
Mhm.
um, by the federal government with lack of funding for some of the farm related initiatives and projects. So
Right.
uh,
Right.
I'm not a pessimist by nature. That is not my tilt. I tend to be a little bit more of on the optimistic side, but I would say that things are not going as well as we need them to be going.
1000%. But I will give a little positive.
Yeah, add that positive.
um,
Go ahead.
um, because first, I do want to emphasize that I totally agree. If you have not been in, we'll say, a challenging financial situation
Hmm.
where those little aids do make a difference. I couldn't have gone to college without Pell Grants, and I don't even think those are available anymore. It was the kind of thing that does make a huge difference. And so we're in a time where all these things are being taken away. But this is my positive. What it is doing,
Yeah.
what it is doing is it is making us come together. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that will become the positive that is like a seed is just starting to germinate, and it's growing, and it's starting to reach out and grow, and reach to others, and it'll soon be a beautiful, lush environment of community. So that's
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
I'm visualizing as the positive from this. But yeah, it's a
It's a doozy.
it's a doozy. I was trying
Hmm.
not to swear. um, so I'm definitely going to include in the notes all links to any way they could support you. Do you have any way people could donate or
Yeah.
do anything to help support?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wear a couple different hats. One of those is the executive director at Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council. And so we are a nonprofit organization. And of course, we accept donations and appreciate donations from individuals or entities that would like to support us. We do have a website, inkthrives.org. And
Hmm.
on that website, you can click the donate button and select to donate to our organization and give proceeds there. The farmers market is one of our programs. We actually have a number of programs here at the Ivanhoe Neighborhood Council. So we would love support for the market or just general support for the work that we're doing in the community. And then my other hat in my private life is I'm also an urban farmer with Young Family Farm. And you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram. We do have a website, youngfamilyfarm.square.site. So that one's kind of hard to remember. And you are welcome to stop by our farm stand, come see us at a farmer's market, visit us for a tour. We do educational workshops and events for the community. So you can find me in one of those two places or running around KC trying to get my kids to sports and all the things.
Yeah.
I
Yes, because you have what, three or
have four. I have
four?
four
Okay, okay. I almost said four, but
young ones. Yeah, that keep me worn out.
I remember the days. I remember the days.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope people go to the links and look at all of it. Just go to the links to educate themselves, and also to go to the links and donate some money,
Sure, that would
because
be
we need
great.
to help each other. And just like small things make a difference, even small donations make a difference,
They
because it all
absolutely
adds up.
do. They absolutely do. And I always try to end any sort of interview or engagement like this with encouraging folks to get connected with a nonprofit that's near
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
The focus here, of course, is health and wellness. So I would encourage folks to find and get connected with a local farmer or a local farmers market. It really does make a significant difference for that business. If you
Hmm.
can, you can if you can stop by the farmers market before the grocery store, then I consider that a big win.
Yes, yes, that is a very good point. That is a very good point. Go there first, and then if fill in the blanks with the other things.
Exactly, exactly. If you just make it your first stop.
Oh, and that makes me think, as far as groceries and cost of things, I mean, local farmers have eggs.
Yes, I
You
do.
don't have to worry about those prices if you just
No.
connect to a chicken farmer,
And we've got meat
and meat, really
and
everything. I
all
mean,
sorts
except
of good stuff.
there's even some grains. There's
Yeah.
wheat at
Some
different farms,
some
yeah.
stores, yeah. You may have to go like further out, more like peri-urban um, areas, but yes.
Well, thank you so much. I loved talking to you. I could talk forever. I have, once again, no idea how long we've talked, and I don't think I'm going to
Don't
edit
tell me this is a
anything
good time because I talk a lot.
up. Well, it's been such a joy. And yeah, I'm just going to say, everyone, send your money, look at
Send
the
your money.
websites.
Um,
And I'm going to sign off with remember to move daily, to feed your body with local produce, and take a
mhm.
breath. Learn to breathe. Just exhale, and it'll help.
All right. Love that. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you.